Hey, welcome to Flooring 101 and the free course. I'm Jason Jabara. I've spent the last 25 years in the retail flooring business, and for the last 10 years I've served as CEO of Jabara's Carpet Out, located in Wichita, Kansas. We're one of the largest independently owned retail flooring stores in the United States. And if you're a retail flooring business and you're experiencing issues, or you're thinking about getting into the retail flooring business, then this course is for you and it's free. So just follow along through all the courses. Make sure that you watch all the videos, and by the end of this course, you're going to know the ins and outs of the flooring business, and we're going to have a free 90-day roadmap at the end of this course in order to help you launch your new business. So today we're going to be continuing on our series with the free course and talking about parts of the free course, and specifically today we're going to be talking about choosing the right retail model. In the last course, we gave you kind of a blueprint and a reality check of things that you need to keep in mind when you're thinking about opening up your first retail flooring store. And in this part of the course, we're going to help you decide what the right retail model is for your store. And there's 4 different areas that we're going to talk about. The first one is looking at the independent versus buying group versus franchise models. The second one is to look at whether you're going to be a showroom and plus installation versus a products only model. The third thing to look at when trying to decide whether what kind of model you're going to have for your store would be whether you're going to go with a boutique or niche showroom versus a more volume model, a volume business, a stocking dealer model. And then last thing we're going to talk about is kind of choosing the model based on your strengths and the things that are in your wheelhouse. If you're going in that direction, they're going to allow you to have a successful retail flooring store. So, this video should give you an idea of what your vision is for your store. And with a vision in mind, you can work towards making your dreams a reality. So at the end of the video, please let us know what you liked and what questions you might have. Remember to click on the accountability post and do a quick check-in on video number 3. And over the next several videos in this free course, again, we talked about it in the last video, the transformation that we want to see take place is going from I don't know where to start or where to even begin to I have a clear, confident plan moving forward. So let's get into it. We're talking about 4 things. The first one we're going to talk about is being an independent retail versus getting into a buying group versus purchasing a franchise model. And they all have their different pros and cons. They have different startup costs. There's different issues with control and versus support and trade-off. So, if you're going the independent route, which most of us probably are, the independent retailer is the largest network of dealers, of flooring dealers in the United States. Not everybody is in a buying group. Not everybody owns a franchise. The biggest model is traditionally an independent. So, when you're an independent, you get to make all the own choices. You're in charge. You decide what goes into your showroom. You decide how it's displayed, how it's marketed, the products you're going to keep, the distributors and manufacturers you're going to do business with. All of those things are up to you, and it's a lot of control. The startup costs are probably lower because you can start with a smaller set in your showroom. You have a lot more control over what you do, but there are trade-offs to that. So, another option is a buying group like Flooring America or Carpet One. These are buying groups that you could get into. They certainly have a lot of buying power. They have advertising power. They have assets and marketing calendars that they come with. But if you live in a populous area of the country, a lot of times these buying groups are already going to be closed off to you. And, unless you're buying into a store or buying a store that's already an existing buying group, getting into those markets and those channels can be difficult because a lot of those places are already taken. But, if you're able to get into them, they've got, there's some fees involved. It's not free. You're going to have to do some of the things they ask you to do. You have to market certain products. You're going to have to take on certain displays, but they have a lot of great training, and they've got a lot of buying power by being in these. That's where buying group comes from. They've got this power to buy. They've already have deals established with manufacturers and distributors, so it's a great option if you can get into it. But you're you're going to have to defer, a lot of those things to what the buying group says as far as marketing and the materials you handle are concerned. The third option is certainly a franchise, something like Footprints or what's another one? Big Bob's is another franchise. Floor Coverings International. Again, it's going to be dependent upon the city that you live in and what you have access to. There's certainly great models. They wouldn't be around if they aren't. There's certainly going to be fees associated with it, though. A franchise fee, a startup cost. Again, you're going to have to carry certain displays and product lines. You may be limited in the types of floorings that you can offer, but there's certainly great models. So, I would do your research into each of those if they're available to you. Talk to other people. Get on the Facebook pages, and you can get on our Substack or our Reddit area and look at those things as well to see what's best for you. But that independent model is probably the audience that we're talking to the most, and what most of you are choosing. So the second thing you have to look at is how you're going to set up your showroom. So you've got product only, just a straight showroom with displays, versus a showroom where you're also offering installation. So, your margins are going to be a lot better on your average ticket if you're only selling products. Your operational complexity is going to be a lot lower if you're just selling products, but you run a risk of losing customers because you're not offering that added in-game component of installation. My assumption is that most of you will probably go with that showroom plus installation model. Our theory always is if we sell it, we install it. Some of you may live in areas where the installation crisis, the flooring mechanics across the United States are dwindling. The average age is 65. I know the manufacturers are really doing a good job, or at least lately have been doing a good job of pooling a bunch of money into the installation crisis, helping to fund organizations like CFI to broaden their education and training of installers across the country, but it's a slow process. I think they've taken a step back. There was a good period of time where everything a manufacturer was trying to make was DIY. Everything was clicked together, everything was free floating, everything was glueless. It still didn't, they were even trying to do carpet that way for a while, where they were making it pre-padded, bringing us back to the old Kanga back, cushion back days. And that's kind of rescinded. But that installation part, one, it allows you another profit area. It may cut down on your margins a little bit, but you really run a risk of losing customers if you're not able to install it. The general customer may try and DIY a click-together laminate or a click-together floating vinyl plank. They're probably not going to try and put in their own hardwood. They're certainly not going to put in their own carpet. And that may, help you decide whether you're going to be a store that offers everything or just hard surface or just carpet or a combination of both. So deciding whether you want to go with showroom plus installation or just product only is something you're going to have to decide. My guess is most of you watching this video will offer installation of some type, and so you need a plan for that, finding good installers, checking their references, looking at their work, and figuring out good compensation. If you can find good installers, pay them well, because they're 4 times worth that if you have satisfied customers. So first thing, independent versus buying group versus franchise. Second thing, deciding whether if you're going to be a showroom and installation versus product only. The third area to look at is whether you're going to run kind of a boutique niche model of a business versus a volume model. The way you structure your showroom is based on that decision, whether you're going to be a high-end specialization, high-end woods, porcelain tiles, or whether you're going to have a broader market approach, offering everything from entry-level and commodity carpet all the way up to that high-end. Are you going to offer carpet, vinyl, laminate, ceramic and porcelain tile, area rugs, or are you going to be specific to one product? Making that decision, positioning your brand based on that decision will have an impact on your business. Some of that is going to be market related. I live in an area where carpet is still king, but if you're in Texas or California or in Florida, there's going to be a lot less carpet there, and carpet may not do as well there as hard surface would. And if you were opening up a store in coastal Florida, you may just want to sell tile. You may not want to deal with the issues associated with vinyl plank or wood or carpet because of humidity and temperature, versus if you're in the Midwest, you may not want to deal with tile or wood because of the cold and the temperatures, and you may strictly want to sell carpet. So deciding whether you want to have that small boutique or a larger volume approach is going to allow you to decide what kind of model you create for your store moving forward when you decide to open up your retail showroom. The fourth and last thing really to talk about is making sure that you choose your model based on what your strengths are. And a lot of that's going to depend on your background. Did you come from a sales background? Were you a former sales rep for a distributor or a manufacturer who's decided to open up a retail store? Are you a former installer who decided to, time to get off the knees and open the retail store? Maybe you were a general contractor and found out, hey, I'm doing all these jobs. We're doing a lot more flooring. There's a need for a flooring retailer because I've got some really good ideas about a better way to run a retail store, or I think I can do it better than the guy beside me. Figuring out what your strengths are going to be essential to deciding the type of model that you decide to move forward with your retail store. So, you may be sales driven. As an owner, you were great at sales. That's your forte, that's your niche, that's your strong suit, and that will kind of help you decide how you're going to move your business model. Maybe you're operator driven. If you're from the installation side and you know the warehouse and you know the mechanics and you know the processes involved in being successful on the operation side of the business, that'll kind of help you determine, if you come from a sales background and you work for a manufacturer and you've never installed a piece of carpet in your life, maybe a smaller boutique high-end model without installation is going to be more up your alley. If you come from an installation background or a general construction background, maybe you're going to offer installation. Maybe you're going to, really steer directly into carpet and products that that, if you don't have any ceramic tile guys, don't sell ceramic tile. Know your niche, know what your strong suit is, and if you're operator driven, steer your model into that direction. And the last part of that, you may be sales driven, you may be operator driven, but you could also be an investor mindset. For the last 30 years, despite the ebbs and flow of the economy, there's been some really good businesses to be into, and there's been some businesses that have not been good to be into, but flooring by and large has been a pretty stable business. And when private equity money and investors are looking at what do I want to do in my life? What is my next step? What is my next business? Flooring has been a very appealing opportunity for investors. And if that's your mindset, whether you're opening up a store or simply purchasing a store and you're going to put your own stamp on it, if you've got that investor mindset, where is my ROI on what I'm doing? What are we good at? Where should we put our money? Where should expansion be? And based on the answers to those questions, that will try and tell you, the model that you either want to create if you're starting from scratch, or the direction that you want to move your company in if you're buying into an existing location. So, making sure choosing that model based on your strengths is super important. The last thing really to think about, when you're choosing the model that you're going to go with for your store, for your retail store, would be kind of the long-term scalability considerations. What do you have in mind for your business 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road? If you want to have multi-store potential, if you're like, hey, I can create this, I have this idea, I've got this brand, I want to build this around, if you want to be able to do it in a town 20 miles away or 40 miles away, can you replicate what you're doing in the store you're creating 50 miles away? If the answer is no, then you may not have multi-store potential. If the answer is yes, possibly that you do. Do you have any supplier leverage? If you've got no relationships with your suppliers from the beginning, it's going to take time to build that before you can look at expansion. And are those suppliers that you're creating partnerships with able to service those other areas? So that's something to keep in mind. Then the last thing would be, looking about the brand flexibility. The model that you decide on, is it flexible enough to adapt to other areas? Because if your idea is, long-term scale to start out as no installation, product only, boutique model, but you want to grow that eventually to multi-store with installation, having all the different facets of flooring, carpet, wood, tile, laminate, vinyl, plank. If you want to be able to move it from small to large, is the brand that you're creating flexible enough to do that? If you decide to name your store Johnson Carpet and all you do is sell carpet, and then you find out that, hey, we're doing a lot better job at selling wood and hard surface, maybe Johnson Flooring is a more appropriate name. If you took over a business and it's always been called Johnson's Carpet for 100 years, but your model is to move into full installation hard surface, you've got to think about that brand flexibility when you're creating your model and creating your store. So there you have it. This video should have given you an idea of what your vision for your store is, and you can work towards making your dreams a reality. Before you open a store, you've got some major decisions to make. Be sure to click on the accountability post below and do a check-in on check-in number 3. If you're interested in moving beyond the free course, simply click on book a call to learn about our VIP and premium plan options, or you can go to jasonjabbar.com. Otherwise, continue on through the free course and grow your business, and we'll see you next time.